Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the 28th episode of the Matias Sports Podcast. I have former Patriot, Seattle Seahawk, Redskin slash Commander now, and Panther, Christian Fauria. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm good. Happy Wednesday morning.
Appreciate you doing this. Like I said off air, I mean, just talk about your career, how you obviously transitioned from the NFL tight end to the broadcasting career and, your other endeavors as well.
You want me just bam, start at the beginning?
Yeah, if you want to start at the beginning, high school, college, whatever you want to
Well,
go
I mean, I don't
for
know. I mean,
it.
I mean, listen, I'm not gonna. I don't know if I would start at the beginning of my career. Like, do you want to know how I went from playing into into broadcasting? Is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
what
that
you're
that's
talking
cool.
about?
Yeah, that's cool. If you want to briefly touch on your career with the Pats and how it was, playing for Coach
But
Belichick and stuff.
listen, it's this it was great. I'm like it was one of the best times of my life playing for the Patriots. I came from a team. I was in Seattle 7 years and went to the playoffs once in 7 years, had a winning season once in 7 years. And then going to New England, wasn't really sure what it was going to be like. They just won a Super Bowl. Most people don't win back-to-back Super Bowls. So I was like, the odds of them winning another one are slim. I had turned down Tampa that same year. Tampa
Hmm.
ends up going to the Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl. And they did it in San Diego where I lived. So I was like, man, I really picked the wrong team. I could have my first year I could have had a Super Bowl ring. Well, a year later, we end up going to a one Super Bowl, winning against Carolina, and then going against the Philadelphia Eagles. So I feel like I made the right choice, and it was such a memorable time in my life. Then obviously left there and went to Washington, which was a horrible experience. Thought I was going to
Jeez.
retire. It's kind of done. Got a call from my old offensive, my old tight ends coach, Jeff Davidson, and he was running the offense down to Carolina. He's like, "Can you still play? Can you still run?" And I was in Hawaii. I was surfing. I was like, "Man, I don't know." So I left Hawaii early, went back, started training with a buddy of mine. I was like, "Listen, this guy wants me to play. I don't think I can do it." He's like, and we just started working out, and I hadn't ran in maybe 8 months. And after I ran this one conditioning test, I was like, well, I guess I could try to do it. Went down there, had a workout, was probably just decent. And they gave me a shot for my last year. I didn't play a lot. They had two younger guys. It was I called it the Anthony Pleasant rule. Older guy, good reputation, is willing to mentor younger kids. And that's pretty much all I did. I didn't play a lot at all. I
Hmm.
barely practiced. I wouldn't take any practice reps. I made the young guys take the practice reps. So I made it through the entire year pretty well.
Was Greg Olson there yet, or that was still too
No.
early?
Mm-mm.
No, no, you didn't have a chance to play with him.
No, he was not. Dante Rosario and Jeff King were the two young guys. I don't know where Dante is right now, but Jeff's a coach. He's a scout for some team, maybe Chicago. I'm not even sure.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, that's a pretty, brilliant career going all the way from the West Coast to the East Coast to Washington and
Man, I didn't know
Carolina.
anything about the East Coast. Let's just be honest. The only thing I knew about the East Coast was something that I read in my history books. And so the first thing I do when I get out here, I'm like, let's go to the Cape, thinking that I was going to see the Kennedys walking around and see all these like superstars. And I got to that rotary where it said, the Cape, that big giant rotary. And I was like, this is it? This
Yep.
is nothing like I thought it was going to be. Went to Plymouth Rock, went to where did we go? Paul Revere's house, did all the touristy things, and then like that was it. Like that was it. I was pretty much done with the tourist attractions. Um, but yeah, this is literally the last place I ever thought I would ever live. I am a California boy, Southern California boy, through and through. But I've lived here longer than I lived anywhere else in my life.
Oh wow. I mean, how was it living in California in your younger years? Because that's always
It
been
was
a place.
great.
Yeah, it was always a place on
It
my map that
was
I'd love to see
great. I
someday.
loved it. We were the kids, like my brother and I, like we walked around town, no shoes, no shirt. I don't think I owned a coat until I was going to college at University of Colorado. We stopped in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. My dad said, you probably need a coat. He bought me a coat off the at the bargain basement rack. And I had that coat for 5 years. I think I probably wore it maybe 15 times in 5 years. Yeah, it was and when I go back to LA, I hate it. Like I hate it. I despise it. I hate the traffic. I hate everything about it. I love the weather, but when I get home, I kind of drive through my old little stomping grounds. I go see my high school. I may see my friends, and then I say I can't wait to get the hell out of there. So
That's what a lot of people say. I mean, the traffic sucks. I guess it's a lot of like homeless and poverty too. That's what I've heard from people. I've heard
yeah,
a lot of
listen,
mixed
there's always
emotions.
been homeless and
Yeah.
poverty in LA. Does anybody remember Skid Row? I mean, it's always been homeless, and maybe I don't know. I don't do the politics thing. I
Yeah,
just
I hear you.
was all I know is that when people bitch about traffic here,
It
I
doesn't
start
compare.
laughing because imagine 5 to 6 lanes going north and south, bumper to bumper. You
Hmm.
may have 3 or 4 lanes here, and it's only like, 15 miles. There, it's, 60 miles.
Yeah, that's
People
crazy,
who drive
honestly.
there are nuts. I can't do it.
Geez, so it's worse than Florida and Mass because I've
I would say the
seen
worst
Florida.
traffic is when I was playing for the Redskins when that Dulles that beltway that they had, that Washington
Hmm.
beltway, that whatever the hell they used to call it, that was the worst traffic I've ever been in. Hands down, the worst, the worst in the country is that area.
Wow. Jeez. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of probably bad highways in the country, but I mean, sticking on the topic of sports, I do want to touch on the Patriots before we move on to your broadcasting career. How was it basically being around like guys like Vrabel, Coach Belichick, Tom Brady? Like, I've heard stories like, how was it basically coming in as a guy from California, playing for Seattle for 7 years, like you mentioned, and then playing for the Pats like 3, 4 years and winning a couple of Super Bowls,
Well,
and
for
even
me, the
Brewski
one
too.
thing that I was craving personally was just I mean, Seattle, when I left, Seattle was kind of getting together. They were on their way. They ended up obviously making it to the Super Bowl with the same bunch of guys that I was played with. But I came to New England, like Vrabel and Tom, like those are name brand people, but
Hmm.
they're just part of the machine. People mention them because of name recognition, but there were 20 of those guys. Like Brady gets all the attention. Brewski, like with one thing I recognized right when I got there that they had at least 20 to 25 guys that could be captains of that team.
Oh, wow.
Captains of that team, not just leaders, captains. And what I thought was like, because I was a captain in high school, college, and in the pros before I got there. So I had that in me also. The first thing I recognized is like, man, I don't need to do nearly as much because the room was filled with guys that were self-motivated, passionate, driven, mature, and hungry. Like that's the first thing I thought of. Like they didn't need to be very vocal. Everybody was vocal. Everybody was tough. Everybody was physical. Everybody was competitive. Everybody. So I can go down the roster. If you don't have Brewski, Vrabel, Rodney, I can list 10 other guys that could easily lead this team if those guys weren't there.
Wow. I mean, that's pretty incredible being there. Was it 4 seasons you were there? And like I said, you won a couple of Super Bowls. And I mean, even the Ty Law, Loy Malloys, the name brand guys. I mean, was it just the Bills culture? I mean, I know it was still early in his career when you got there. It was only what, his second, third year on the job, but him coming from obviously Cleveland, the Jets, the Giants, and having experience in the NFL and being the coach he is today, even though he's out of the NFL right now. But like, what was the culture change from Seattle to New England your first year? Like, was it a total culture change?
The culture change in Seattle wasn't bad.
Hmm.
When I first got there, we were always 8-8. We were always 7-9. We were always losing games that we should have won. There was so much talent on those early Seattle Seahawks teams. There was so much talent. We should have been much better. Dennis Erickson was our coach. He was really cool. I love Dennis, but he was like, hey, he just assumed everyone would be a pro if it was understood that you were supposed to be a pro, and guys took advantage of that. Um, they weren't necessarily as disciplined as they should. If he was a little bit tougher and a little bit more willing to punish people, I think we would have been a lot better. But when Holmgren came in, he nipped that in the bud right away, and we instantly became better. we instantly became more disciplined. Um, and it was still hard, but those early years there, um, it was challenging because we were talented. We just couldn't freaking figure it out.
So
That drove me nuts. But they ended up those squads, those older squads of the Seattle Seahawks, once I left at 03, 04, 05, 06, those squads were great. They had
hmm
Hall of Famers, Chris
Sean
Hutchinson,
Alexander, right?
Steve Hutchinson,
Yeah.
Alexander, Hasselbeck,
Hasselbeck, yep.
Walter Jones. Defensively, they had a bunch of guys. Like that was a really good squad.
Yeah, I know they ended up playing in the Super Bowl against Pittsburgh, I
Steelers.
believe. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know they lost, but or did they? No, they lost
No,
that
they
Super.
lost.
Yeah, they lost. So say Pittsburgh won that with Bill Cowher at the time, and Ben was like in his second year or first year, whatever it was. But no, yeah, I was definitely curious how the culture change was from Seattle to New England, and then obviously leaving for Washington and Carolina. Obviously, it's all different kind of cities and states and stuff like that. But yeah, sticking with the Pats. What was I gonna say? What's one highlight in your 4 years that you have with the Patriots, like that stood out to you besides like the Super Bowls and the culture and stuff like that? Was it like the personnel, some of the
No,
media
I would say
members?
that what stands out to me, if we're not using the Super Bowls, when I knew I was in the right place, it was the last game of my first year there. We were still trying to make the playoffs. We had to play Miami, and I ended up catching a 2-point conversion to put the game into overtime or something like that. We ended up winning the game, so now we're 9-7, and we're so excited. And I remember thinking, just wow, this is what it's supposed to feel like. This is the way it's supposed to look like. The brotherhood and the love that existed in the locker room, that was real memorable for me, because those guys were just great. Like everybody was just thought the same way, and that's what I was craving personally, was that that unified bond, that it felt like college. That's what it felt, because once you leave college, it's never the same. It's
Yeah.
very business oriented,
Yeah.
and you're not, 20, you're not 18 when you come in and 22 when you leave. It felt like college for me. So, and I remember like it was yesterday. And then of course there was other opportunities, but that day, that after that game sticks with me a lot, because I remember saying, well, this is the way it's supposed to be.
Oh yeah, for sure. I
And the
mean,
next year we win a Super Bowl, then we win another one.
yeah. I mean, that was just the start of something, the beginning of greatness, obviously, winning back in '01 and then winning in '03 and '04, I believe it was the seasons. But and then we went on a 10-year spree of not making it to the Super Bowl, right? I mean, '05 to '15, whatever it was when we beat Seattle in that missed call at the goal line. But yeah, backtracking, still sticking with your 10-year before we move on to the broadcasting. If you could touch on the Lawyer Malloy situation with Belichick, I know you don't have to go into the specifics, I should say, but how was that vibe around the locker room and with Lawyer Malloy and how he moved on to Buffalo and all that good stuff?
Well, I was new
Hmm.
to the team. I was on the team the first year, so I knew Lawyer, but I didn't know how much of an impact he had with everybody. I've had Lawyer on my old radio show. I've talked to him about it. We were not happy with the situation. It was not something that sat well. I wasn't as upset as everybody else, because I didn't have those experiences with Lawyer like everybody. I still liked him, and I was like, well, this is odd. But I remember everyone just being really pissed. And then we opened with Buffalo, and it was just the Lawyer's like in our locker room. He's hugging everybody. And it's just a weird vibe. I'm like, now we got to still fight this guy. And he had a great game. It was just really weird. Um, and it's the whole, Tom Jackson, they hate their coach,
Oh
that
yeah,
famous
yeah.
line. But after that, we lost to them 31-0. And as ironic as it would sound, the last game of the year was at home, and we beat them 31-0 to end the season. That was just a really fun game too.
That's pretty ironic. You lose 31 nothing and then the last game of the regular season you win 31 nothing
Yeah, it was so
because
funny. I remember like just laughing and having such a great time, thinking back to the game, first game in September, when man, Tom threw an interception. We gave up sacks. It was just such a shitty game. And
Yeah.
then going fast forwarding, they had nosedived. They weren't even making the playoffs. They were horrible. And we were sitting there getting ready to go to the Super Bowl.
Wow. That's incredible because that was the same year that Rodney came in, right? Lawyer
Mhm.
got shipped out and then or got
Yeah.
released or whatever it was, and then Rodney came in and just was a force for, the Pats defense being at safety. But all right, so I want to shift gears to your broadcasting career. How did that come about after your playing career? How did you get into it? Because that's always a thing that I admire, talking to my guys, like how did your broadcasting career start off, basically,
Well, ever
after your
since
playing
I
days?
was even while I was in college and then the pros, I always went out of my way to try to do extra things. I had a
Hmm.
little show like when I was in Seattle called Hanging with the Hawks. We went out every Tuesday. It was for New England Cable News. That was the
Oh
name.
wow, yeah.
New
Yeah.
England Cable News. Like, it was just kind of it was in its infancy and the station up in Seattle. It was like they were the test dummy, and I didn't even get paid anything. I just did it for free, and I did everything for free early on because I just wanted reps. I wanted practice,
Hmm.
and when I look back at some of those old tapes, I can tell sometimes I didn't give a shit, and sometimes I did. I would come and dress like this. I was so unprofessional. I was so lame. And then when I got older up in Seattle, I mean, and here, there were so many opportunities because the team was good. The entire NFL spotlight was here on the team. So you got instant recognition. People were asking you, you were getting a lot of airtime. The locker room was filled with reporters. So people got to know you. And then you win two Super Bowls. The best thing about winning Super Bowls is that you can always say, hey, Christian Fauria, two-time Super Bowl champ. So if I write an email, if I try to get a job by a program director, I mention the Super Bowls because
Yeah.
it makes people read them.
Yeah.
So and then I started with a company called a station called Versus. Versus was just some low level show, and they were a station, and they were in Stamford, Connecticut, and
Yep.
they had like shitty Mountain West games. It's like Sam was it's not Sam Darnold. The Red Rifle, what's his name? I can't remember. It was Andy Dalton. He was the
Oh,
quarterback back
yep.
in
TCU,
TCU.
right?
TCU
Yep.
was low level,
Yep.
but they were beating up on everybody. And we had their games. And I didn't know a goddamn thing about college football. I didn't watch it. I didn't pay attention to it. I didn't like college football. I liked pro football. So I had to force feed myself information on that. And then got a job at ESPN, started, just you're trying to meet as many people as possible. Because what I realized that the more people I engaged, the more people I created relationships with, the better chance I had at getting more opportunities on First Take, Sports Nation, Sports Center. Man,
Hmm.
I just kept, meeting as many people as I can. And then my contract was up. They didn't pick it up. And then I started working for CBS Sports Network and just covering college football full time. And then I got the job with the station up north. And so I was doing both those things at the same time, working for the Crest. Man, I was doing everything. Like
Yeah.
I worked 7 days a week, all day,
Jeez.
all night, traveling Tuesday to Wednesday, traveling Thursday to Sunday, and then going back over, doing it all over again. It was so much. It was too much. I couldn't, it was like ruining my health, ruining my relationships. It was way too much.
Yeah.
So I quit CBS Sports Network, and I always regretted it because it's such a good company. But then they would call me every now and then asking me to come on. I would do it. So now I'm working for them again in a part-time manner. But
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, so that's a quick story. And now, when I got let go, I just decided I was going to start doing things that I always wanted to do, and that's the show Coach to Win that I do once a week.
Yeah, yeah. Talk a little bit about that because I've seen it on LinkedIn, I should say, promoted and stuff like that. And I think you
Have you
posted up.
subscribed?
No, I haven't yet.
Oh,
I have
what
to.
are you doing here?
I know,
What am
I
I
know,
doing?
I know, I know.
What
I'm
is
trying.
this?
I know, I
What is this?
know,
You have not subscribed?
I know. I gotta chime in.
You should have
I,
lied.
I seen you had what is it, UMass coach Frank Martin recently. You were speaking to him.
Frank Martin, John Gruden just talked to Kurt Warner
Wow,
the other
that's some high
day.
profile names.
Well, listen, man, I want to talk to successful people. I want to
For
talk to
sure.
unsuccessful people. I don't want to just talk to players or just
Hmm.
coaches, just CEO. I just talked to a guy yesterday that wrote a book called Chatter, and all he talks about, he's a Michigan man. All he talks about is how to how athletes overcome these negative thoughts that kind of end up taking over their body, where they get into
Hmm.
this big self-doubt issue. But yeah, that's why I'm doing it. I just wanted to learn as much as I could about the philosophies of coaching, the mentality of coaches, what players need, how they translate what coaches are saying. Like if you're a business owner, why is your business so bad?
Yeah,
What are you doing or not doing as a CEO or a boss? And why do your employees hate you? There's reasons for that. Um, so I just listen, I'm not trying to, rewrite history. I'm just trying to learn as much as I can for my own benefit.
for sure. With doing this podcast, do you think you'd be like an NFL college coach at any point? I mean, at any level, even high school? Like, would you think about getting back into the game a little bit, even if it's locally where you live or anything else?
What I would rather do, see, my passion is less about like, teaching technique. I mean, I could do
Hmm.
that. I could coach if I wanted to. I don't really know if I want the lifestyle. But I would prefer to do is help young athletes manage their careers. That's where I think the gap is. I think the
Hmm.
gap in youth sports where you're dealing with and earlier now with agents in high school, NIL money, parents, just
Yeah, it's
these
totally
demands
different.
that all these kids have. Then you would get into college, it's just now you gotta deliver. And I think there's a gap. I think what's missing in college sports and in pro sports, less mental health. And I guess it's more, man, I feel like crap. I feel like I'm not producing. I don't know what to say to the coach. I don't know how to approach him. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to say it. I'm nervous every time I do this. I can't get out of my own way. It's just all those things that create, self-doubt, insecurities, these highly trained athletes that are putting so much time into their bodies, they just don't know how to manage these small little obstacles that really hinder a lot of kids' success. So if I'm looking to do something, it's I don't want to be on the field. I want to be in an office saying, "Listen, man, hey, let's talk and tell me what's going on. Why are you so down? Why are you so bummed out? Why and how can we help you? Let's talk this through." Um, that's where I feel where a need is.
Oh, well, I mean, that's great because I feel like since the whole NIL, all that stuff came in, even dating back to like the Reggie Bush years, because I was young, it's like it's all about getting paid under the table, then getting into violations and stuff like that. I don't know the logistics or specifics of it, but do you think with the kids nowadays staying on this topic, is it an egotistical thing? Like, look at Shadur Sanders. Obviously, you had Dion as your coach, your dad. Now he thinks he's gonna pick where he's gonna play. He's gonna play in Miami. Like, to me, it's like be grateful that you're gonna be drafted by an NFL organization and not pick your place. I know the whole Philip Rivers, Eli Manning back in the day, about 20 years ago. Yeah, I didn't want to play for this or that, but just be grateful because you got to make the best of your opportunity because another team might look at it and not like want, Dion's son. I hate to single him out, but I'm just saying, like a player in general, just kind of single people out like that. So I wanted your opinion about like the egos with the players now.
Listen, man, as long as there's been football, there's been egos. And
Oh yeah, it's every sport.
if those guys feel like they have that type of power and they decide to use it, then I'm not mad at them.
Yeah.
But if I'm a team, um, listen, I don't know if Shador Sanders is good enough to do that.
Yeah.
One, so that's part of it. Um, but it happens all the time. I don't think I kind of chuckle because Caleb Williams was trying to do that,
Yep.
trying to kind
Good
of,
point.
figure out, try to dictate where he went. And he was going to Chicago all the time, but he was just trying to hedge his bets and try to
Hmm.
make more money. And that is the thing. Like you can't differentiate, you can't separate it. It is a business now. So you can't be mad at a kid for trying to maximize his value and try to maximize his earning potential. It is a sport. So fans don't get it. They can't separate it.
Yeah.
I think they just like, oh yeah, oh my God, thank you, Mr. GM. No, no, screw that. Those guys are making money off you. They're
Yep.
filling their stadium. They're selling your jerseys. They're marketing you. This is a business. And then the guys that can't separate it, listen, the business of sports is a big thing, and there's some guys that are really good at it, and some guys aren't.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you got the talent, all the talent in the world, you're a first round pick, you're one of the lucky 7 round picks, even if you're a fourth, fifth round pick. I mean, to me, looking at it as an outsider's perspective, I'm like, if that was my kid, if that was somebody I knew closely, I'd be over the moon for them. Holy crap, you got drafted by Washington, you got drafted by the Pats. Like, who cares if the team sucks and blows? It doesn't matter. But I mean, me putting myself in their shoes, I'd be like, wow, I'm basically either making high thousands or I'm a millionaire and I'm just gonna better myself with my family and my wife and this and that. But I understand it's a business. The NFL's a $1 billion business. They're involved with Amazon, Netflix, anything else. But I know Roger makes a lot of money. I mean, it is what it is. But I mean, I'm not dogging the NFL. I love football personally, dearly. I do. But I mean, I get it. Everybody's in it to make money, and it is what it is. That's all I can
I
really
don't have a
say
problem
about
with it.
it.
I don't have a problem with it. You shouldn't have a problem with it either.
Yeah, no, I understand. I understand. I mean, I faithfully watch the Pats, which I'm gonna roll right into right now. What is your opinion on them being 1-6 and after the London thing this past week? Because I watched and I was kind of in shambles a little bit watching, the defense just get shredded.
What is my opinion of the Pats?
It's probably clear
That's a
cut.
broad question.
Yeah.
That's a very broad
What's your
question.
overall team view after the first
Well,
7 weeks? I'm trying to.
I don't think anyone should be surprised that this is what they were going to get. Their roster is what it is. Their offensive line is a constant swinging gate.
It
Uh,
is.
you knew it was going to be tough. I didn't know their coach was going to go out and call them soft, but
Yeah.
um, listen, I've been on crappy teams. They're so far away from being good, so far away from being good. And I'm telling you, it's only going to get worse. They're going to have tougher games. They're going to, step on the rake, and it's going to hit them right in the face. There's going to be tons. They're going to continue to be pushed around defensively against the run until they learn to stop it. Every
Hmm.
single team is going to be like, okay, let's pick on this. And that's the most demoralizing part of the entire thing is that they cannot stop anybody. They cannot physically stop anybody. People pick on them. They're the little kid in class that just can't defend themselves. So it's a tough watch, and Gerard Mayo isn't doing himself any favors. By the way, he's answering questions and he's kind of all over the place. He
Hmm.
needs to just pick a lane and stick with it. And it's not even the half midway part of the year. So um, I just can't imagine what it's going to look like moving forward.
Do you think this team is like too loose compared to the tight-knit group, I should say, that Belichick had for 20 plus years and with the whole social media, like they bring that up. Like, do you think these guys are too about themselves and not about the team, or they still support each other? Because obviously Bill was recently saying, like, hey, like, there's a tough group of guys. Like, these guys ain't soft. Obviously, he mentioned on Pat McAfee's show, I think earlier this week.
Do I think that that they're soft? Do I think if you took any of those offensive linemen individually, put them in a bar, do I think they would turn down a fight? Hell,
No,
what you're talking about? He's just challenging them.
he is,
He's
yeah.
challenging them, and I don't think it's going to work. I personally don't think it's going to work. You can really do that with a strong, dedicated, internally, strong team with talent. Because listen, you could challenge them all you want. They're just not good enough. Some of the
Yeah.
guys aren't good enough. And you can call out Polk and you can call out the offensive line, you can call out the defensive line. They're trying, but I don't think they have any faith in themselves. And that's what I think he's talking about. I don't think they believe that when a challenge comes up and a critical situation comes up, I don't think that they believe they can win. That's being soft, right? That's being
Hmm.
soft. Nobody's turning down an ISO block. Nobody's turning down a tackle. Now, when you start seeing guys arm tackle and trying to make sure they don't get hurt, that's when you got a real problem.
Yeah,
That's when
for
you got.
For sure. I mean, obviously, we've seen what we've seen of Drake May in the first 2 weeks. To me, I thought he's looked pretty good. I don't know if I'm going to go to the phenomenal stage, but he's looked pretty decent. He's moved the ball around. I mean, he's passed over 150 yards. That was the thing that
Yeah.
was.
How do you know? You don't know. You don't nobody knows anything.
I know.
Nobody knows it. Nobody knows anything.
It's
He
still
put up
early.
big numbers in garbage time in the fourth
Yeah.
quarter when the defenses are playing prevent. How do you know? Hell, he should have had a pick six last week in London. He should have had a pick six and an interception. He should have thrown two interceptions. The problem was Jacksonville couldn't catch the ball. I mean, so I'm sitting there going, he dodged a bullet on that one. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that he's not going to be good, and I don't even know if Gerard Mayo's going to be a good coach. We may
Hmm.
not never know, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm not. People are so interested in Drake May because everything else around them sucks.
Yeah, that's
That's what. So
basically
they
what it
focus on
is. You're
Drake May
right.
because that's the only somewhat positive thing moving forward. So
Hmm.
they focus in on that, and like now it's like, all right, the emperor has no clothes on. Now you have to address all the other issues. The last thing you thought you were going to have to be dealing with was the defense. You thought they were going to be good,
Yeah,
built
carrying the
right.
team. Yeah,
They're still
you're right.
missing guys that are hurt, but you're not allowed to claim injury as a reason why you can't stop anybody. That's the
Hmm.
GM's job to create depth. It's the coach's job to coach the players, even though they're backups. That's not it. So everybody gets hurt in the NFL. Like luck is a big part of a team's success, but you can't sit there and use it as a get out of jail free card. Nobody cares.
No, no, you're right. I mean, I know we look at it as the fans' perspective, but I try to look at it on the team side too. But I've never played a lick of football in my life, and I wish I did. So I understand I can't talk any kind of smack to any guys that I respect that play, including yourself. I mean,
You talk as much smack as you want. That's why you're doing this.
no, I'm not
That's
trying
why
to
you're
do.
doing it. Talk
I'm sorry.
smack.
No, I don't want to. No, I don't. But no, basically, like it's just it hurts me every week, Christian. It really does because I contemplate whether to watch games or not. I'm like, the season's short enough. I love this team. I'm still supporting them, even though they're 1-6. Hopefully, they'll win this week against the Jets and Rodgers, but who knows? But I pray for a win every single week. I don't care who we play. If it's San Francisco, I don't care. I know we've lost six in a row, but the whole Cincinnati thing, everybody's like, all right, they're 1-0. Seems like they're gonna go not undefeated, but they're gonna have a winning record. But then that just went right downhill when
Yeah,
losing six in a row.
that
So
was an outlier. That was first game luck
it
with
basically,
against a team that gave you multiple turnovers and gave your offense a short field, and so that didn't surprise me at all.
and they're in recent struggles too, with basically what start getting off the slow starts at the beginning of the year, with Burrow and the gang. But I mean, I thought the Seattle game they should have won at home, the home opener. Obviously, San Fran, it is what it is. You knew you weren't going to win that one, unfortunately. But I'm just trying to like replay some of the games. It's like you look at the schedule, they should have beat the Jags. Like the Jags have been looking like crap the past freaking 7 weeks since the beginning. I don't even know how they have two wins, to be honest with you, but one of them's against us. But I know I'm talking smack now, but I don't know.
They feel like you're talking truth. I mean, it's not smack.
Where does this team go the next, what, 8 weeks or the rest of the season, seeing that they got a later bye? I mean, do you see them winning 4 or 5 games at least? I know they got the Jets this week. Do they play Miami next week? I'm trying to remember,
We got
but
the Jets this week. So here's what they need to do. Um, it sounds cliche, but cliches are there
mhm.
because they're true. They just have to just win one. Now, you just isolate it and you try to be in a good positive mood. You try to have a lot of FE, which is fake enthusiasm. You try to at least believe you can do it. And then once that game starts, you have to deal with the ups and the downs. You have to deal with it. Like last week, they started really fast. First two series, they get 10 points, and then the wheels fall off. And then because the Jaguars figured out, okay, this is the way we're going to beat them. So when it gets really tough like that, you really need to, focus in and just try it. Honestly, it is just one play at a time.
It is.
It has to be. Like, you have to convince yourself that that's the only way you're going to get through it. Because if you're looking ahead, oh, what's it going to look like in the fourth quarter? Who cares? Can we please just be in the moment?
Hmm.
We please just win this play. Just win one play at a time. And I think that is the only way you need to think about it when you're in their situation. And then once you get that win, it just gives you a whole week of happiness. It just gives you, you can just get one win. It just kind of, everybody is relieved. Like all the coaches are relieved. The players are relieved. Like you're not the joke of the NFL. You just got to get that one by any means necessary, by any means. But you can't jump off sides. You can't be stupid. You can't do all these
Hmm.
stupid things the veterans are doing. You got to call a clean game. You have to somehow create an advantage for yourself. I would say the first thing is like, listen, let's all agree that we're not going to have any mental errors. Let's start with that. No mental errors and no turnovers. If you just do those two things, you'll be in the game. That's it. No mental errors, no turnovers, right? They're kind of one of the same.
Yep.
If you just do that, you will be in the game. I promise you that. But they can't stop doing that, you know?
No, I agree. I mean, with that said, that was very well said. We'll see what happens going forward, but I appreciate it, Mr. Fauria, you coming on
Yep.
here for me. I really do, and I will subscribe. Don't worry about it. Thank you so much
I don't even know
again.
what to do with you. All right. I'll talk to you later.